Ready to go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Fourth and Wrong. Today is July 1st, 2025. Today's episode, we will discuss Jeremiah's bold comments about Michigan, Florida State's aggressive NIL contracts, the college football's new rules regarding injuries, conference realignment, recruiting, and much more. I'm your host, Tyler Huck. We've got my co-host, Chris Marler. How are we doing today, Chris?
Can't wait to talk about Jeremiah, Florida State, NIL. Yeah, I didn't know about the injury report stuff. I am fired up. Nobody's as fired up today as you. You have been just buzzing like a bee today.
I have been. I had a small window between meetings where I just chat GPT hucked it, and we got a lot of info to go through today. So
yeah, I'm pumped.
Today is the first day of the House settlement, which we're not going to. We've talked about it before. No echo. Evan Grimes in the chat says no echo, so that's a great start. Got to be happy about that. We've talked about this in the first couple pods of the summer, but it is now officially in place. Schools officially can cut out the middleman if they so choose and pay their athletes directly. You're already starting to see some schools, Georgia notably, go ahead and just dump the NIL collective, get into something that's more run by the school. I think Georgia's running theirs through Learfield, which is like their marketing arm.
Yeah,
which makes sense. And obviously the numbers are known by now, but the limit for schools' athletic department in general, $20.5 million per school, and will go up 4% annually every year for the next decade. So split it how you want. CBS Sports writer John Talty said he thinks the majority of schools will go 75% of that budget to football, 15% to men's basketball, 5% to women's basketball, and then 5% to all the other sports.
Did you just credit John Talty with that information?
It was in the article that I read, yes.
Tyler, I said that on this past week.
Okay, well, let me go back and credit.
I actually said it twice because there was the echo, for one. Also, sure. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit salty about John Talty because I didn't know this, but apparently he was in my current girlfriend's DMs right when we first started dating, which I did not like.
Okay. So if you're out there and you're on Twitter, go find him and shoot him a couple DMs yourself. Let him know how Chris feels.
Oh, I've been doing it every day for 2 years.
Yeah, obviously this is going to be an interesting dichotomy with some of the, like, obviously SEC, you'd consider most schools would probably do that 75% towards football, but like take like a Kentucky who traditionally kind of cares more about basketball. Maybe they're going to be a little bit different. So does that mean that they have a fall off in recruiting? Although I did see they stole a recruit from Auburn today. So maybe
we're going to talk about that for sure. No, this is kind of one of the things I think is most fascinating about it, because like a year before this even happened, the NCAA put on their own website. It's like NCAANIL.com or something. And it was a breakdown of how they expected every athletic department would most likely allocate the money. And they were going to allocate it in this model by all 18 to 22 teams or however many each school has, which is ridiculous. That's not going to happen. You already heard different ADs like Greg Burns say that they're going to split it between football first, basketball, men's basketball second, baseball, women's basketball, and then whatever sports actually make like a profit. So what's most fascinating, in my opinion, is some of the schools that are either more well-rounded and good at like several sports, or really, really good at a second to third tier sports in like terms of like importance to like the masses. So like if you're really, really good at softball, like Texas Tech is trying to be, if you're really, really good at like, I don't know, I mean, South Carolina, LSU are really good examples because they want to be really good at a lot of things, and they are at women's basketball, baseball, and you're already seeing like a more, I guess, like reinvestment, a bigger reinvestment into some of the sports that are lacking.
So a couple interesting things about the House settlement before we move on. Most people know, but if you don't, now there's basically no. It used to be that you had like 85 scholarship limit for football, for example. That has essentially gone up to 105 players, so you can just have 20
Right.
extra players that are on your roster officially, um, which sucks because fewer spots for walk-ons, which some coaches historically have really appreciated the walk-on. Um,
Dabo.
but Dabo, yeah. Bobby Bowden was a big one. Um, you've got this newly, I don't know, constructed thing called NIL Go, where basically anybody that
Yeah.
you a NIL contract or NIL contract to that's over $600 has to be reviewed by this NIL Go. That's Deloitte, which is an auditing firm, will come in and look at it, and then there actually is a CEO of NIL Go. I don't know. This was
Yeah.
new. I didn't know this, but he's a former MLB executive, Brian Seeley, and he's heading up this whole NIL Go deal. So again, I don't really know how much that's really going to affect NIL deals because I think that once you start to hit that cap of the 20 and a half, I think people will just start giving money in McDonald's bags like Jeremy Pruitt used to do. Like I
Yeah.
don't really.
We're gonna go back into the under the table stuff for sure, and like that's just become like expected. You talk to anybody that's like from like the national media that's talked to different programs, like that's 1,000% what's expected, and not just in like football, but like men's basketball, especially if they're not feeling like they're getting enough of like allocated money. Like Louisville is a good example. Like I mean, they want to put a ton of money into their roster between $8 to $10 million. It's like I think that'll be interesting. The other part too, the Deloitte thing is super super interesting because one, it's super weird that they're involved at all. And when this news was broke, they came out and they're like, oh no, we're actually not going to be that much involved at all. Like we're like after they were listed by name and get, like basically also detailed exactly what they would be doing like with their role and their job, like helping out the NIL. But from that meeting, talk about how they were going to oversee what was above the board or like lack of better words, like legal or illegal for an NIL deal. Anything over $600 gets reviewed. They said between 70 and 90% of the deals that they looked at from last year would have immediately been nixed, like right off the
Right.
bat, because they're all just collectives. You're just paying them like money out of pocket.
It's pay to play. It's
Yeah,
like essentially exactly what they said they didn't want NIL to be is what it has been so far.
yeah.
Um, we'll see. I mean, this what is his name? Seeley,
The
Brian
MLB
Seeley.
guy.
Yeah, Brian Seeley. According to Rob Manfred, who is the foremost expert on integrity and fairness, did have a quote that said, during his time at MLB, Brian demonstrated unparalleled integrity, a commitment to fairness, and the ability to navigate complex challenges with precision and care.
They're gonna figure out a way to get the Dodgers in the 12-team playoff, and I'm gonna kill myself. It's gonna be awful, just awful.
Oh man, how about Otani at linebacker? Think about it.
I would love to see Otani play football just because he would be one of the first people to get in massive trouble for gambling on himself during games, just without hesitation.
Speaking of that, how about former Noel Malik Beasley? Just all these clips coming out on Twitter now in the NBA. He's under investigation for betting on props and different spreads and games that he was actively playing in. And now everyone's going back and finding these clips where there's like 5 seconds left and he's like rushing down the court to score
Dude,
like
did you
an
see the one against the
uncontested layup.
Hawks?
Yeah.
They were an 8.5 point favorite. And then somebody asked for the Hawks to hit 2 free throws to go up 9, and he is just by himself sprinting down the court. All right, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about Florida State, or do you want to talk about recruiting? I feel like we should do recruiting.
Okay, let's go into recruiting. It's been the recruiting cycle has completely changed from what we were used to 5 years ago, and especially 10 years going back. I mean, of course, they introduced the early signing period. That was probably back in like 2017-ish, where they moved, one of the dates up to December, completely taking away the February signing day that we all used to love.
Yeah. Get out of work
And so,
for free every Wednesday, first Wednesday of February.
right now, it seems like all the commitments you still have to sign in December or February, but it seems like pretty much all the biggest players are committing by the end of June. I think there's a dead period that starts for a while where kids can't go on visits and stuff like that. Um, I mean, that's even different. You can just take unlimited official visits now. So,
Yeah,
like, you want to go on 10 official visits? It always used to be fun sitting around drinking with your buddies. Like, if you had 5 official visits,
right.
what would be the 5 schools you go to? Now it's just
What
like,
was your
yeah,
answer for that, by the way?
Texas was always up there. I originally thought USC until I found out that it's not exactly the nicest area. So
Oh
UCLA
no.
might have been the better one. I think Oregon would probably be on the list for me.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Those are 3 that initially come to mind. Maybe like a Ohio State, just for I don't think it's like the best campus in the world, but it is the Ohio State.
Fair.
And then I'll throw a random one in there like I don't know, Hawaii or San Jose State or something like that, just to throw everybody off.
That's the golden ticket right there. Like going to Hawaii was always a mainstay whenever I would say that. I feel like also I'm pretty sure I brought this up to my dad one time when I was growing up, and he's like, I'd go to Bama 5 times. It's like, sick, dude. Sick.
We got
I feel,
Parlay P in the chat. So new
Probably people
fan.
were just singing your good graces, dude. That's not a saying. You know what I mean? Anyway, I would have Hawaii in there for sure. I would say probably either Penn State or something like on the East Coast, like UNC. I feel like would be kind of awesome. I wouldn't mind that. Man, like I feel like USC would be a lot of fun. Texas
Yeah.
would definitely be up there, and I would
Arizona
probably do like
State.
LSU or something like that.
Arizona State.
That campus sucks, but
Yeah.
everything on the campus is pretty awesome.
And the
I'll
surrounding
say
town
that.
is awesome too. Scottsdale is one of my favorite places to go.
Yeah.
But we are not talking about those schools, Chris. We were talking about specifically some schools that have been very hot on the recruiting trail recently. You're going to be shocked to know that a few schools in the South have really been cleaning up on the recruiting trail
Dude,
recently.
but like I know we joke around a lot about how good like year in year out Bama, Georgia, Texas now like they do in recruiting. What Georgia just did though in the month of June was insane. I didn't realize until this specific year that June was like the new like the entire month of signing day. It's insane.
Yeah.
And that's like even I think Shane Beamer at Carolina, he's had 30 total commitments during his first 4 years were all from the month of June. I think he had like 8 to 10 last year. But what Georgia did, picking up 14 players in a span of I don't know, roughly like 3 to 4 weeks, and like every single one of them, it's like one fucking 4-star, 5-star, blue chip, like top 100 defensive lineman, one after another, after another, after another. I mean, they Kirby flexed his muscle like more so. I feel like in the last month than I've seen him do in the last several years. Like some of the guys they went out and got whoever they wanted, and it feels like some of the guys they got were almost just out of spite, so somebody else wouldn't get them.
The one that made me laugh the most, I happened to look at my feed on Twitter and I see a tweet from Steve Wiltfong, who's like known to be one of the better recruiting analysts. He's with
Yeah.
On3. He comes out earlier this week and he's like, I'm putting in a crystal ball for PJ Dean, elite D lineman, to go to South Carolina. And then like 30 minutes later, Hayes Fawcett, also with On3, comes out and just puts a graphic up. PJ Dean commits to Georgia.
So to be fair, he was not far off from that. I talked to people because this was a commitment that happened yesterday. It was like a 4-star top 100 kid. His brother played at Georgia. And I talked to somebody that was close to the Georgia side of it. And I asked him like what he thought like about an hour beforehand. And he responded like 2 hours after the commitment. He was like, I forgot to respond, but if I would have 1,000% told you he was going to South Carolina. Everyone thought he was going to South Carolina. And then 30 minutes, which is funny you use that specific number, 30 minutes before his announcement, Schumann got on the phone with another assistant coach and apparently changed his mind. Like I think he always wanted to go there, but he felt like they had kind of recruited over him with so many elite players they brought in. And he made some comments like, do you guys even have room for me? Which is some pussy ass shit, first off. You guys probably even have room for me?
There he is. PJ
Is that
Dean.
him?
That doesn't seem like PJ Dean. That doesn't look like a D lineman.
That
Maybe
could
it
be
is.
anybody.
Yeah.
Either way, he's kind of a tweener in size as an edge rusher, but yeah, no, like that was a big pickup for him. And then like everyone else, like Bama, Notre Dame, Georgia were the ones that kind of stole the show. I feel like in June, Bama might have a really big one tomorrow as well. That they just got a 3-star receiver like 30 minutes before we came on here, and I'm praying that it's not because they are not going to get the 5-star number 1 receiver in the country tomorrow. The kid from where's he at? I don't know.
Is that the Sedarian Morgan kid?
Yes.
Yeah, he's from Alabama, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's crystal ball to go to Bama, but we'll see. So also, I'll be honest, man. Like, I love when like anytime your team is getting a shit ton of like recruits and you're top 3 to 5 in the country, it's a good feeling. I feel like especially if you're somebody like us that grew up watching recruiting like and paying like a lot of attention to it because it's just like I don't know, like that's normal. That feels like normal, like that kind of excitement. But now every time I see that they get like a 5-star, I'm like, God, I hope they're not like paying this kid way too much money just for him to transfer out like a year or two later. So
yeah, well, there are some schools that are trying to negate players doing that more frequently by putting that in their contract, but they are coming under fire for that. We'll get to that here in a minute.
Who is it, Tyler?
That's my alma mater. They're in the news again for something negative. Seems like that's pretty constant.
That's been like 3 straight years.
Yeah, it's always. But I did see a graphic, and now I'm not going to remember where it's from, but it was showing like kind of like a bar chart of how NIL money by month has been spent, and like June for like collectively like everybody in college football just completely skyrocketed because everyone knew July 1st was when you had to start going by the new rules. So they're just throwing money at kids as much as they can before that rule goes into effect. So pretty interesting. Okay, so this NIL deal, which has been talked about a lot on social media, there's this Darren Heitner, I think his name is. He's like this NIL agent, which to me, okay, like good for you. You're an NIL agent. He came in and was like, this was like the worst thing I've ever seen. I can't believe this would hold up. But essentially, Florida State's making headlines right now for signing players to fairly aggressive revenue sharing contracts under this new revenue sharing deal with the House settlement. And there are provisions in the contract. Now, some of this stuff I think is a little shady, and I'm sure that eventually these things will be negotiated out. But basically, one of them is like limiting the player's ability to renegotiate or cancel an NIL contract, which on the surface probably wouldn't hold up in the court of law because I would think that you could always renegotiate a contract at some point. But I mean, it's happened to Florida State. I'm sure it's happened to a ton of schools. I mean, I think of Georgia, like Bear Alexander. Basically it's just like, well, I'm just going to sit out. And we've given you all this money and we're just going to have to pay you. And then you're going to transfer. So they're putting in all these clauses. Like, so, we can, as a school, we can extend your contract out without you being able to negotiate more money for us year to year. If your play suffers from injury, illness, lack of play,
lack of development because you're at Florida State.
Yeah, can't develop players at all. Even if you get injured during like playing football, it's considered a breach of contract to try to renegotiate or cancel out the contract that you had. Finding the players if they lose team issued equipment. That must be an issue at Florida State. These players losing, finding them for basically not following the rules. And then a clause potentially limiting players' rights to legal counsel during future negotiations.
Yikes.
So a lot of people coming out, agents, rival GMs of these. I can't believe we speak in these terms at this point about college football, but the players' agents, the GMs of other teams coming out, blasting this. Florida State's come out after that went public and defended it, saying, we're just trying to set clear expectations on when we sign you to a contract and we're promising you money, we want you to have some liability on your side too. You just can't be this.
Hold on. Let's break that down for what they really mean. Let's read between the lines. What they're really saying here is, hey guys, like things are not fucking great here right now. Okay, so cut us some slack. We've had like a 5-star recruit, like you said, be committed for anywhere between several months to 2 years, and then for 3 or 4 straight years leave on signing day. Please just don't fucking screw us after we give you a shit ton of NIL money because we don't have that much.
Right. So I think there's probably a happy medium between what they have in these current contracts, and they did come out and say, individual situations will vary. So if you're a better player, you probably won't have some of these contract stipulations, just like any other contract that exists. If you bring more to the
I
table,
mean,
maybe you have less hoops that you have to jump through.
the big thing here is the injury thing. Like that, the optics
Yeah,
of that are really bad. Also, I will tell
very
you
bad.
this: Heitner being so vocal about it, I'm pretty sure that's the guy that represented Jaheim Otis, and he was the one that kind of started the process of. He was like one of the first main guys that was like, "I'm gonna quit mid-season, make sure I don't use up more than 4 games of eligibility, so I can have an extra year." And then you find out too, like that wasn't just because they wanted to make sure they could play another year. It's because that's another year of making money and being able to be shopped around a little bit. I think that's the same guy. He's also a UF grad, so I don't
Yes,
think he would be super
unbiased.
objective.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. But I will also say that the injury thing is shitty just from like a surface level standpoint because I mean obviously this is like the most violent game in the world and I mean, besides Love Island, and if you are trying to figure out how to like make sure you're still covered, like having all that in writing, that just feels super weird. Also, players losing team equipment, which means they're just stealing it,
yeah,
which is fine. Like they're just stealing Nike shit, which like I did as well.
right.
When I told my coach in college that I quit, I left the office. He called me when I was in the parking lot and he's like, "Did you take that Nike Dry Fit?" I was like, "Yeah, it fits me really well. I'm not going to give it back." And he's like, "You need to turn around and bring that back right now." So I totally get that part, but it
Yeah,
also screams there's a lack of fucking organization
yeah.
happening at Florida State.
Yeah, well, not to be surprised when you go 2-10, that there were some issues going on behind the scenes with the culture. Um, yeah, even though today the House settlement goes into place, and ideally in a perfect world, you'd think that things may be a little less crazy when it comes to all this NIL shit. I think it's just going to be just as bad going forward,
Yeah.
um, because this is what college football is all about: paying people under the table, shady deals, McDonald's bags,
I miss that. I wish they would just
bars.
go back. Dude, give them $20.5 million, but make them launder it or like pay people in the shadiest ways possible. I want to get back to some sort of familiarity with recruiting and cheating. And if it's all going to be legal, at least make it fun again. Like I want to see Eric Dorsett and getting a fucking gold Trans Am on the day before signing day and then not giving it back. Like that, I want to go back to that. Also, wait, what are we talking about next?
Well, two things I want to talk about when we're talking about recruiting. As while we're still
Auburn.
on it, there's a couple schools that are. What's up?
Auburn.
Yes, I did want to talk about Auburn and also Colorado. Two schools that I think surprisingly have not been doing as well on the recruiting trail. Maybe Colorado's a little bit more explainable. Like I didn't really notice this because I don't follow Dion on social media, but apparently he posted that he has like some undisclosed health issue that he's been dealing with. He's lost a bunch of weight. He's been
Lost a
absent
bunch of
from.
toes.
Yeah, well, that definitely happened. He's been absent from coaching duties since April. He's missed spring camp, so a bunch of off-season events, and supposedly his first like next appearance will be at Big 12 Media Days next week. But certainly, I mean, it hasn't hurt ticket sales because they're still, I mean, they're doing great there, and he's been awesome for that. But I think they had like one total commit until like last week. They've picked up a couple and since then, but
It's exactly how it was last year, man. Like they were like in the hundreds last year, and because they were entire mentality was they were just going to go to the portal. This is going to be so interesting to see what he does this year, and I don't mean just from like coaching and like wins and losses. I mean like how he handles himself because they got Juju Lewis as a quarterback. I think they also got a transfer in. There's did Caden Salter is that there?
yeah, Caden Salter. I think he's supposed to be the starter this year.
So they still have like talent on the roster, especially at that position. But his sons are both gone. Like Travis Hunter's gone, which is his main son. I feel like if he could like that wish could come true. But here's the thing too. Like I heard someone say this the other day that like one of the reasons why they thought that his son or Shadur dropped so far in the draft is because coaches felt like if he got in, didn't play well, and then like the team wasn't playing well, which most of those teams drafting a quarterback obviously had like a lot of issues, that one of the first people to go would be the head coach. So immediately, like when you have like this type of dynamic, a lot of people around that league felt like that Dion would use that as like trying to like kind of get his foot in the door to be the head coach of whatever team that was. And I don't know how much truth is involved in that at all, but I don't think it would be surprising, like in the like at all from Dion, like what we've seen the past couple of years. Watching him try to be interested in this, like now what is a real job? Like he has to show up every day. Like there are 9 conference games he's got to go play in the Big 12, and he doesn't have his family, he doesn't have the sideshow, and he doesn't have like the constant media attention from that. Like how does he respond to that?
Yeah, I think kind of what Parlay P just said in the chat, which is a great name, by the way. Parlay P. I don't know. I think people have always kind of assumed that he was not going to be in it in the long haul for Colorado. Now, what does that mean in terms of how are they going to be on the field this year? Because they lost not only just those 2 players, Shador. I mean, Shiloh was a decent player, but I don't think he's one of like the main guys.
No, he was terrible. He was fucking terrible.
Yeah. But Shador and Travis Hunter, now you got to completely. This is the first time that Dion's ever coached a game without his son being the QB. I think because he was his high school coach, then he was his coach at Jackson State, then he was his coach at Colorado. So now he brings in a totally new roster essentially.
Also, he's gonna have to like figure out how to like develop that relationship with someone that's not his son. Yeah. Like every single day in practice, like the guy leading your team, like you have to figure out a way to make sure that you are handling that. Like this will be a much different relationship. Like no matter what, I don't think it's going to be bad. I honestly, I always say this. I think college football is better when Colorado teams out west like that are good. Like maybe it's just a nostalgia thing for me. I want there to be like more inclusivity across the map in the United States, so it's not always just the Southeast. But there's not a big part of me that expects him to go into the season and be really, really good with what they lost for one. And I just think he's going to be disinterested.
That's my thing as well. And that's kind of what I was trying to get to is that, yeah, he might not be in for the long haul, but maybe it's because once the 2 studs are gone, like it'll be, it's actually one of the more intriguing storylines to me this year is, like, what is Colorado going to be without Shador and Travis Hunter? Like, is Dion going to continue the success? Is he going to keep building the program? Or do they take a big step back? And if they do, the rest of college football, because, you know, everyone's pounding on the door like, Florida State, so dumb for not hiring Dion. Look what they're missing out on. Well, I'm interested to see what they've missed out on. Because if they're not having the success, does Dion's future pro prospects or coaching in the SEC, like those may go away. So I'm really interested to see what that looks like.
I hope he goes to Florida State, and I hope you guys go 3-9, and then he leaves after 1 year, and then just Willie Taggart's the whole program right back into oblivion. I don't really wish that.
3-9, Chris, would actually be an improvement on last year's.
Baby steps, brother. Baby steps. All right,
you got to fill it.
I'll tell you the team that I thought he probably should have got at least a look at because of how good I thought he would be able to recruit. That's the thing. Before he came to like the FBS level, I just, like a lot of people, assumed that he was going to be unbelievable at recruiting. Yeah. Because he's so charismatic, everyone loves him. He's going to walk into everyone's home, and they're going to instantly like just fall in love with his charm, want to go play for him. He's such a character and like a larger than life like personality from like decades, right? Like since his like days in the NFL and Florida State. Mm-hmm. But that has not happened at all.
I got to stop you there. He doesn't do recruiting visits. I don't know if you remember that from last year. He's just said, no, they can come to me.
Because they want to see his house. He doesn't want to see their house.
Right.
That's a bold statement to make. Anyway, but I thought that Auburn should have taken a look at him because of like when they were getting rid of Parson, and the main reason they were getting rid of Parson is because they didn't like his muscular definition, and they felt like his glutes, especially with how much they kind of developed throughout the season, it was a pretty obvious sign that he was not taken seriously, and he was way more focused on getting some gains. Also, he didn't recruit at all or
He
care
was
about
also
Auburn.
interested allegedly in off the field.
That was not real at
Oh,
all.
yeah.
But if you fired Brian Harsin because he was so bad at recruiting, and Hugh has done a great job at recruiting, especially over the last year and a half. In the last 2 transfer portal cycles, high school recruiting, they had a top 10 class. They had a top 3 or top 5 transfer portal class. They have put a shit ton of resources into this turnaround, and I mean strictly financially. Like this is going to be the best Auburn roster they've had probably since 2019 at least. It'll be the best offensive line they've had in 15 years. They are, I think, a top 2 or 3 receiver room in the country. Arnold should be better. The defense is always pretty good. But Hugh, just cannot fucking figure out how to get out of his own way. Because you have given this, incredible second chance to come back into the SEC after the way you left. And it could not be a more perfect fit for somebody that loves to tell people how much they love the Lord. That with Auburn that's a beautiful matrimony.
Yes.
And the fact that he has come in and started off pretty well, but dude, you're 11-14. You're 11-14 in 2 seasons. You're also 1-8. What do you call it? 1-8 against ranked teams so far at Auburn. You have one lone signature win, and it was 4 overtimes against A&M. And right now you are 89th in the country in recruiting.
For those that are only on the audio of this pod, we're showing a commitment graphic of Denarius Gray, wide receiver, flipping from Auburn to Kentucky today, which is just pretty much the end. Well, I think tomorrow could possibly be the end of a long line of disappointments for Auburn on the recruiting trail.
Yeah.
I thought this was I know he's always been considered a good offensive mind, but I thought his calling card was recruiting.
Yeah. Remember before NIL when he was kind of a pioneer for NIL and amongst other things. And then he went. So the thing with Hugh too, that is he kind of falls in line, in my opinion, into this category where it's man, I tell you what, if you beat Alabama from 2010 to 2022, what that did for your fucking career, if you were just an average at best coach, was insane. We saw with Jimbo Fisher, who got a contract renewal and extension after he already had the most ridiculous contract in the history of college football. Then, Freeze beats Bama 2 years in a row, which had never happened in the history of that program in Ole Miss. Leaves because he has to. Goes to Liberty.
Boom. Coach Boom.
Coach Boom.
Gus Malzahn.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was Muschamp. But either way,
boom.
He fucking leaves and goes to Liberty. And then all because Malik Willis has this incredible year against the worst competition for 12 straight games, puts up unreal numbers, goes to the NFL draft, gets, was supposed to be a steal of the draft and a huge prospect. And all of a sudden we're talking about Hugh Freeze again as this quarterback whisperer. And then Auburn looks at him and says hey, that guy, obviously great with quarterbacks. That Malik Willis, he actually signed with us out of high school and Gus couldn't figure it out. And now, he goes up to play with Hugh at Liberty and he becomes an NFL draft pick. Also, he beat Bama twice and is an offensive guru by his own admission. He said he was a quarterback guru in the fucking press conference. And then you've watched what's happened on the field. Did he I don't know if he knows that his seat is hot because he's playing a shit ton of golf. And I'm not sure if you've seen this, but this is the new flight tracker. So people have been very frustrated. Auburn fans have been very frustrated with the lack of recruiting success this offseason. Somebody got in, on the Alabama, GIN, was it GHIN?
Yeah, I was going to make a joke, what are people tracking his GIN app of his skin? That's really happening.
Yeah. And then tweeting about it saying he has played golf 20 times in the last month and a half. This many times over the last week. And it's dude, at some point, some of these coaches need some fucking downtime. But again, optically speaking, that could not. Here, Eddie, pull up the Hugh Freeze GIN thing because it is hysterical that somebody found it. It was a big story in the AL.com. But like they're going to be fine. Like they will figure out a way to recruit, like they always do. But if he doesn't win, man, like the
Yeah.
scary thing for him is in Auburn, this is the best team they're going to have in the last like probably 10 years. The month of September, they got at Baylor, at Oklahoma, at A&M. They could be a good football team and still be 2-3 at the end of September. And then what do you do? Do you just rehire Harsin?
Oof. Yeah, maybe they go after Kiffin again.
Dude,
Yeah,
I mean,
you're kind of at a desperation point at that point because it's been now Malzahn fizzled out. Then you bring in Harsin, who never really
hold
got
on.
off the grid.
Malzahn fizzled out after you gave him $50 million.
Right, right. Then you've got Harsin comes in, never even got off the ground enough to fizzle out. And then you got all the, look, we're willing to look past the past transgressions of Hugh Freeze. He's a good Christian man, and he's changed his ways, and he's a phenomenal recruiter. QB guru, obviously, with the likes
Beat
of Bo
Bama.
Wallace, bring up the greats of the game. And he beat Bama. And now if this
Twice.
fizzles out, where do you even go?
Probably just run. I mean, whoever the equestrian coach is, probably just give them a shot.
Are they pretty sick at equestrian?
They're like an equestrian like juggernaut.
Dude, hell yeah. We should be covering that this fall.
Horses freak me out. It's they like what
Brian
are their feet,
Horson, am I right?
That should not be as funny as it is. No, I honestly I feel like at some point you just go back to what they did in like the 30s, where like college football coaches were basically just like working their jobs like the same way like a restaurant staff would when they were down a person like on a Friday night. It's like, hey, by the way, Shug, you have to actually cover basketball too. Like a lot of them coached multiple sports, and I think like Shug Jordan is like the only he's top 5 all time in Auburn for wins in football and men's basketball. So maybe just give Bruce Pearl a shot.
That's not bad. I believe we're looking at the Gin app of one Hugh Freeze here. It's a little hard to read. I don't know, Booz, if you can zoom in a little bit. What are we looking at there on the left? Those are the scores. He's regularly in the 80s, a couple 70s in there. I mean,
he's not even breaking 80.
No. Well, he has a few times. I'm looking at the dates here. Looks like all of these are within a month of each other. So yeah, he is playing quite a bit of golf. Hey, look, this is the system that has been set up. We talked about this last week. Like, at what point are the ADs going to step in and be like, hey guys, maybe we don't give these guys guaranteed contracts where, like, for example, they could go 2-10, and if we want to fire him, we're gonna have to pay him $60 million to never coach for us again.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing has gotten so far out of hand, man. It's ridiculous, and like, and it has been for a while. But at Auburn, I think there's a stat somewhere about like how much they're still paying off in like buyout money even now. And thank God for Texas A&M, because it's like, they're finally in the shadows of that. But I mean, yeah, like they had to buy out. I think like they bought out Tuberville for $5 million. Then they had to give a buyout to Chiswick 2 years after he won a natty. Then they gave Harsin they gave Malzahn a 7-year, $49 million contract. Then had to give him a buyout of like 33 or 36 million. Harsin was 18 million. Now you have, I don't think Hugh Freeze could have been negotiating with a lot of leverage when he took this job. Because this was kind of like them doing him more of a favor, I think, than the other way around. But yeah, it'll be interesting because like I don't know how long the leash is. Let's get into the deep dive, dude.
Okay. You want to talk about your head coaching ranks? Is that what you talk about with the deep dive?
We can. Let's see here. Also, yeah, tell us in the chat if you agree, disagree. There hasn't been a ton of pushback, which is shocking because anytime the internet's involved, there usually is. There was an article that came out today on CBS Sports, and it was a deep dive into every Power 4 head coach's record against top 25 teams. And it was top 25 teams at the time they played, and also if there was any game that was like wiped away because of like, violations or sanctions or whatever. they still counted those wins in favor of the coach because they obviously were well on the field. So, do you want to take a guess at I think there's 64 total Power 4 teams or programs in the country, maybe it's 68. If you add Notre Dame, do you have any idea how many total head coaches of that entire nearly 70 what do you call it? 70 total coaches is. How many have a winning record against top 25 teams? Over 500.
7.
I hate you. This is not fun when you do this. 9.
Ah, that was close.
That's really close. I mean, I was kind of shocked by that. No conference had more than 3. The Big 12 had 0. I think they had one. The guy from Kansas State was at 500. The ACC had
It's probably just
3.
Dabo. Oh,
so it's Brent Key is 6-6. Fran Brown is 3-1, and then Dabo is 40-27. So you technically have 3 there. The Big 10, Ryan Day 24-9 for a 727 win percentage. Dan Lanning 10-6. Lincoln Riley 18-15. And then everyone else is under 500, including Matt Rule 2-22. Did not know that. Brett Bielema 23-45. Greg Schiano.
I knew you were going to throw Bielema in there. You got to.
Dude, he's such a dick now. Schiano 4-32. Mike Loxley 2-28. Anyway,
I mean, I know he's at Rutgers, but damn, 4-32.
Yeah, they were like number 2 in the country when he was there. And this is all time, by the way. These are their records all time. And then you get the SEC.
Talk about all time great guy, Ray Rice on that Rutgers team.
Jesus Christ. The SEC has 3. Do you want to take a guess at who they are?
Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
My guess would be DeBoer because he did really good at Washington.
He did really well at Alabama last year, too, against ranked teams.
Yeah. I would say the fan base was not collectively very happy with the first year.
Oh, they live in Alabama.
Yeah, I get it. They're judging on a curve coming off the GOAT.
Yeah.
And then the next one, I don't think it's Sark. I'll go Kiffin.
No, Kiffin is 11-24 against ranked teams all the time. He's 8-9 at Ole Miss. But Josh Heupel, 12-12, so he's right at 500. He's 11-10 since he's been at Tennessee. But yeah, only 3 that were at 500 or better. Only 2 that were over 500. Kalen DeBoer had the best win percentage of any coach in the country for this metric. But here's the thing that I thought was interesting as well, because you start looking at some of these losses, and like Kirby has 19 total losses since he's been at Georgia. Only 4 of them have been to unranked teams, right? Like, and you look at I think they had 6 total losses from 2018 to 2023, and they were either, I think 4 of the 6 were to either 2019 LSU or Nick Saban at Alabama. So he's been phenomenal. DeBoer, I had him on my the coaching rankings that I had. People did not think he should have been that high at 3. I thought he should have been at 2 because he's 2-0 against Sark. 3-0 against Lanning, 1-0 against Kirby, 1-0 against Brian Kelly. Everyone that's in the top half and the top part of the top tier, I guess, of SEC coaches and college football coaches. I mean, he's had a winning record against. They went 10-1 against ranked teams his final 2 years at Washington. The issue is this: in 13 career losses, 10 were to unranked teams.
All right, it gives me good hope for the opener this year. Because I know we're not going to be ranked. You made an interesting comment there, Chris. You said, I thought Kalen DeBoer should have been 2 over Sark. Didn't you make this list?
Yeah, but I don't like getting yelled at on the internet. And people get so mad. And then, because then you got dude, did you see that graphic I made about the top 10 biggest SEC former students and
absolutely electric in the comment section.
2 straight days of Jimmy Buffett didn't graduate from Auburn. I know he didn't. I know.
Students, former students or alumni, right?
Right. It actually said it on the graphic. Just be safe.
It said it pretty clear there at the top, just like this one does. SEC head coach ranks.
Yeah.
That would be like me being like, Chris, I don't see Dabo on here, and I don't understand you. You're an idiot.
That'll happen. That'll happen for sure. Because it happens all the time. But yeah, I don't. there's only so much yelling over dumb shit that I can handle. But I tell you what, the thing that is like going to be my new biggest frustration is on all these. There's a link attached to the article where I spend way too much time diving into the numbers so I can justify and validate the reasoning that I have going into this. And no one seems to ever click on that, which is part of
Right.
the problem. Is there anybody on this list that you think that's like way too high? I think Stoops could be further down. I think he's gotten a free pass for years.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm interested to see how this year goes for Brian Kelly because they've got a
Yeah.
really good squad this year. You got one of the top 3 to 5 QBs. I'd say definitely top 3 QBs coming back. Um, Starting to recruit a little bit better on the trail, but I would
Dude.
say that his first couple years have been fairly disappointing at
I
LSU.
mean, he had a Heisman Trophy winner. He beat Bama in year one, got to the SEC championship game, two 10-win seasons. I think as a head coach, he's had 12 10-win seasons in his last 18 years. And I think before this year, it was like 8 straight. And, like this should be the most talented roster and team that they've had under him. Like they are loaded. But I mean, I guess I think people are probably a little bit frustrated, but mainly because like, dude, you can't start off every year 0-1. They've lost 5 straight
Right.
openers. They lost 2 in RDL last year to USC, who ended up not being a good team. Now this year they got to go to Clemson.
Oof.
Um, so I would agree with you on that. I also feel like, I mean, dude, he's been a head coach for like 35 years. He has 292 career victories. So like,
Yeah,
I
and
feel like
it's
he's over.
to be honest, I mean, if you're looking like in that view, which is over the course of their career, like Heupel really hasn't done much yet. I mean, they've been good, but and then Kiffin, he's been there, but like I don't think he's really elevated Ole Miss past where I think some people like the hype that they get. Like I think he's had a few disappointing moments. So to your point, I think if you're looking at the grand scheme of things, Kelly should be ahead of them. So I may retract my statement there.
I think Kiffin over Heupel is like a pretty common uh, ranking. And I was
Disagreement.
looking, yeah, and like I was looking at the numbers on this, like, and trying to like figure out like how to justify that because Kiffin's had 3 10+ win seasons in the last 4 years. They had like back-to-back 10-win seasons for the first time in I think 65 years. Um, they beat Georgia. He finally got off like the schneid, like with like some of those like ranked opponents. Dude, also you got to think too, a lot of like those parts of the seasons where they were 10-2 or like 11-2. Most of those, like I feel like half of those losses or maybe more were to Saban or Kirby. So it wasn't like he was losing to like shit teams. He had a bad record against like ranked opponents until this year. But the thing is, like you feel like he put it all together this year because you beat Georgia. And how did you also capitalize on that? You lost to Kentucky, 4-8 Kentucky at home as a top 5 team for the first time since 1977. Lost to who was the other one? Um, Late in the year, obviously to Florida, and then you blew a 7 point lead in Death Valley with 3 minutes to go. Like he had, like I thought Bama didn't take advantage of like the shot that they had. Dude, he had a red carpet, like everything was served to him on a fucking silver platter to finish up the year and make the playoff, and it would have been great. I feel like they would have done really well in the playoff the way they were built. I cannot understand how that happened.
So when I'm taking a look at this list, I'm seeing 4 to 5 names that should be a little bit nervous about if they have a bad year, they could be shown the door. Um, One of them being I don't know that Mark Stoops will be shown the door, but to your point, my man gets a pass a lot. Like every year, it's like they won 7 games, but I mean it is Kentucky, and it's like okay, well, are you going to progress past that, or is that just kind of like that's where you get your bonus? We know that. Billy Napier, like yes, people are expecting more from them this year, but if you don't perform, you're backing up the last few seasons, which have also been underwhelming. I'd take a look at him. Obviously, we've talked about Hugh Freeze. Sam Pittman has not been on a roll at Arkansas. Brent Venables at OU. Like, this is the year for Brent Venables to prove that he could be the guy. I don't think,
Dude.
if they go 6-6 this year, I don't know what we're doing here. And then, the last two, whatever. Clark Lee, he's had a great year last year. I don't think his job's going anywhere. And then Jeff Levy just started there. So,
Yeah. I think the big thing too is like you look at Stoops. Stoops is 3-32 at Kentucky against SEC teams that finish with a winning record.
yeah, I feel like every year we go into the Kentucky Georgia game and everyone's like, oh, Kentucky might have a little something for Georgia. And then it's just a blowout.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like last year was pretty close, but they like again they had the win last year against Ole Miss, but like that win last year against Ole Miss that should have like been the catalyst for something, and they ended up going 4-8. They lost, I think, every game against FBS opponents the rest of the season. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, like there's a lot of different ways and angles to look at it. I think like the biggest takeaway I had was after 6. There's not a ton of like you look at the quarterback rankings and like where each of those players could project this year. Even outside the top 5, there's a lot of room for like high ceiling, really high level players and like breakout years, all up and down the league, right? From a coach's standpoint, after the top 6, it's kind of like okay. I mean, yeah, I'll talk up Eli Drinkowitz for what he's done the last 2 seasons and Beamer, but like I don't know. Really, like, grand scheme of things. Beamer is, by the way, I will point this out, 6-0 in the month of November against ranked teams in the last 3 seasons.
It seems like South Carolina's on the rise. You got a lot of hype around Sellers. They're recruiting better than they typically have been. So, I mean, I think it's time for him to take the next step. You're so much better at remembering like specifics of games and seasons than I am, but Missouri was on a decent roll last year and they just lost an embarrassing game, I feel like, in my memory, but I can't remember exactly the specifics.
Wait, for which one?
Drinkwitz at Missouri.
Oh, yeah, when they went to A&M as a top 10 team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just completely shit the bed. Like, I think, Missouri, who's Missouri's QB this year?
It is Bo Parabula. I'm saying that incorrectly. He's a transfer from Penn State. He's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They also got a 5-star from last year, and they got that Sam Horn kid that was Travis Hunter's quarterback at Collins Hill.
Yep.
He's like he throws like 98 off the mound, but he's one of the backups as well.
A couple media members chiming in here in the chat. Michael Bratton says Brian Kelly over Josh Heupel is Vern Dumquist.
He wrote it twice. Why would he do that?
He did. He fucked it up the first time, so he had to get it back in there. And then Locked On SEC says Kentucky before Stoops was basically Tulsa. They throw parades for going to bowls. But how long, though? He's been there for, what, 10?
I think 2013.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was RDC at till 2012. And then, yes, correct. So he's been there for 12 years. How long do we just celebrate getting to a bowl?
I mean, like, what's the big win? Like, he's not wrong. Like Kentucky was always a bottom dweller in the league before he got there, but now they're like 4th place in the division dweller for like before they split the divisions. Like I mean, and here's the thing too. I hate that we're bringing this up since they just got a 4-star receiver over Auburn because that's shocking to me. Why do I really go play in this offense? But I don't see it getting better. Like how is Kentucky going to compete? Like, dude, like the weird public breakup they had with their former Michael Bratton. Correct me here if I'm wrong. Who's the Vince Morrow, the former OC or O line coach or whatever that left in the middle of the night via text and went to Louisville? Like it's the least stable program in the SEC, including Vanderbilt, including Mississippi State.
Yeah, an interesting year for a lot of coaches on this list. I think we just go kind of rapid fire on the last bit of this stuff we have on our agenda here. I don't know if you saw, but we'll talk Jeremiah Smith real quick. Jeremiah Smith, obviously, he is the number 1 player on NCAA football game coming out next week. He came out in an interview with The Athletic this week with Manny Navarro of The Athletic and basically vowed to never lose to Michigan again, which... granted, he's only going to be there for probably this year and next year, so the next 2 years. But his quote is, quote, "I'm not a sore loser, but I hate losing. And losing to that team up north was pretty crazy. In the end, I think it really helped us play the way we did in the playoffs, but I didn't want to go to Ohio State and lose to that team up north. I just hate them. Just something about them. For the next 2 years, I promise you, I will not lose to them. I can't lose to them in the next 2 years.
I don't know if he is aware of this, but they've lost to him like 4 years in a row.
Yeah, and also to start the sentence, I'm not a sore loser, but I hate losing, and I'm going to bitch about losing for the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's a tough
Seems
one.
like you're a little bit of a sore loser.
I mean, listen, Bama lost that team. They were not a good football team. I mean, they had some really good players defensively, but like, I don't know how you come into that game, especially after the last 3 years in a row where you've lost to them, and let that happen at home, last game of the season. Also, can we just fucking say it and like stop pretending that like it's a great rivalry, it's a great tradition, it's two blue bloods, all that kind of shit. Great. It is so corny, everything they do in this stupid rivalry. The game, that team up north. Did you see on campus? They put an X over every single M on campus, dude.
Oh yeah.
They won't even like Urban Meyer. It says Urban Meyer on his office door. Who fucking cares?
Yeah. No, we don't recognize the letter M around here in Columbus.
It's so stupid. What do you want to close with? Because we got to
go. Quickly, Pac-12 added Texas State. I'm sure you're excited to see them join the juggernaut of Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Utah State, Oregon State, Washington State, Texas State, and Gonzaga.
And raw stress for less. Dude, this is it. They are little giants. Like that's the whole thing. Like anybody can join. It is a Planet Fitness mentality. There's no judgment at all. No matter what your credit score is, come on down to the Pac-12 sales-a-thon. Anybody can get into a ride today. Also, Texas State is like the least sexy addition of all time. Like I wish they would have actually put together like a fun league.
Yeah, the Bobcats. You're not fired up about the Bobcats from Buford, Texas. I don't know where it is.
Beaufort.
Beaufort.
It's probably something stupid like that.
Lastly, Chris, do you still play video games?
Dude, I haven't played video games in years.
Well, the new game is out next week, and EA has like slowly been dropping their top players in the game. Real quick, we'll show you top 10 offensive players. Jeremiah Smith leading the way, 98 overall. Your boy, Ryan Williams, number 2 at 95.
18 years old, by the way.
Yeah, did you know that? He was just 17 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah Love. I know one of your favorite players, obviously, Spencer Fano, the right tackle from Utah.
Right tackle?
Up there with Caden Proctor. Jordan Tyson at Arizona State. The right guard for Texas A&M. What are we doing here? Eli Stowers. Okay, there's an SEC name
That's
that
legit.
you might know. 93. And Francis Malagoa from Miami, Nicholas Singleton. And then I don't want to make you sad, Chris, but Caleb Downs, the number 1 overall defensive player on the board here. A lot of Big Ten, a lot of SEC, very few anything else as things have been trending recently. But I have pre-ordered the game, Chris. I will be playing it on Monday because I pre-ordered it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you're really jealous since you're so into video games.
I mean, I would love to play the game. But also, I know myself pretty well that like this would be something I would devote way too many hours to. I will say this in terms of like it's only been out for they came back a year ago. Everyone's super excited about it as they should be. But this year, I don't know if you saw the team rankings and I guess whatever the score would be, like the ranking overall.
Number 1. Who was number 1?
Bama was number 1, but there was nobody over a 90. They were like everyone was 89 and below. So compared to last year, where it's like Georgia, Ohio State, they were all like 96, 97, I think overall as a team. Between that, making sure everyone is like not good in the video game that isn't reality, and then putting out a top 10 list of fucking utility interior offensive linemen, that is pleated khaki sexy. That is terrible.
That is midsummer content that you won't get anywhere else but EA Sports. EA Sports. It's in the game. Chris, you are moving from Atlanta soon, so we're going to be getting together soon in person, I hope. I will be traveling next week, so if we're going to record a pod, it's going to have to be early in the week, Monday or Tuesday. This has been awesome. We're going to get the Angry Fans line back up and running for the season, so get excited for that. Anything else you want to drop? We appreciate Booza, our producer extraordinaire in the background, showing all the links. He's like our Jamie from Joe Rogan. We just say Booza.
I love you both. I gotta go though to my other pod.
All right,
my less important pod.
Less important. Everybody like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.